Greetings, mortals! With me now is Nathan Long, well-known writer of Warhammer fiction and longtime scribe of sword and sorcery. Hello, Nathan.
Hello, Skull.
I appreciate your coming here today, and I'm sure you're pleased with me.
Very pleased.
Yes. Tell our viewers, how long have you been writing works of sword and sorcery?
Well, I think I wrote my first sword and sorcery story when I was about 12. Not that that got published, and not that anything got published until much, much later. I think my first sale that could be considered sword and sorcery was to Marion Zimmer Bradley's fantasy magazine somewhere in the 90s. After that, I wrote a bunch of sword and sorcery for the Warhammer folks.
Yes, and I have enjoyed it greatly. Tell me, what led you to the writing of sword and sorcery all those years ago when you were 12?
Well, I loved it. I loved it. Fantasy is something that I've always loved. You know, when I was a kid, I read the Narnia series and Lord of the Rings. And as I grew older, I started to read Conan and Fafhrd and Grey Mouser and Elric, and I just fell into that hole and never came out again. I just loved it so much that I wanted to do it myself, and I gave it a shot. And I've improved since I was 12, so that's good. But I just keep going.
I too have fallen into holes. I also approve the decoration of yours. It is very nice. You mentioned Liber, of course. When did you first read him?
Probably when I was 11 or 12. I would say, like, so young that I didn't get everything, because there's a lot of kind of naughty things that happen in those books, and I didn't really understand that. But they were slinging swords and having adventures and robbing caves and tombs and temples, and I loved that stuff.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite story or two, or even three, from Fritz Leiber's Lankhmar saga?
I think my absolute favorite is probably Lean Times in Lankhmar, which is just brilliant. It does things that the genre doesn't often do. It's more a comedy a little bit, and it's sort of about what heroes do when they're not going off on adventures and when they're just trying to make a living. And I think it's hilarious and poignant and just a lot of fun.
It is most amusing. This is true. Now tell me, how did you approach writing your own Lankhmar story, the first new official Lankhmar story in generations?
Well, I came up with a bunch of pitches, and I presented them to your minions, Howard Jones and Joseph Goodman, and they liked one that I wrote about Fafhrd and Grey Mouser joining a theater troupe. And the reason I wanted to write that was because there are two things that, well, I'm sure there were many more things, but two things that Lieber really liked. One was sword and sorcery, and the other was the theater. His father was a professional actor, and he wrote one of his great stories, I think it's called Three Ghosts in Hamlet, about the theater. And I just thought to combine Lieber's two loves into one story, theater and Fafhrd and Grey Mouser, and tell a little story with a theatrical twist. That I thought that would be fun.
I found it most satisfying and delightful.
I'm glad to hear it, Skull.
Tell me, which of your own books do you wish people were reading more?
Well, let's see. I would love people to read my Jane Carver of Mars. Did I say that? My Jane Carver of War stories, which are parodies of John Carter of Mars. They are the only novels that I've ever published that were not written for hire for somebody else. And I'm very proud of them. I had a lot of fun playing with the conventions of the Sword and Planet genre and turning them on their head. And I like them a lot. And there's even there's audible versions of both of them, and those are great if you want an audible. So
I have tried listening to Audible once or twice, but the sound suddenly ran down and everyone began to talk slowly. I enjoyed your Jane Carver of War books very much. I did not find them a parody. I found them entertaining and full of action and excitement.
Well, they're that too. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. A love letter and a reimagining all in one. Readers, you should try them out, just as you should try out issue 6 if you do not already possess it. You are fools if you do not. Tell me, Nathan, what do you love best about my wondrous magazine?
Well, if I'm being honest, I love that you published me. That's awesome. But beyond that, I think that the magazine is just a quality production. You get the best writers, and they are giving you great stories, and the production of the magazine, square-bound format, everything is just top-notch. It just feels like an old pulp, and I love that. I think it's great.
You are wise to note these things. Had I a heart nearby, it would beat with pleasure. Well, Nathan Long, thank you for joining us today. I hope that you are hard at work on additional tales of Lankmar.
I'm fixing to begin to get ready to start.
Yes, I think that means what I think it means. Very well. Thank you for your presence here today. This interview is at an end.
Thank you, Skull.